Fear is something that we all have to try and get a hold on. Fear is something that is irrational. Well, we can never be fearless, for fear is in everyday life. Whether you're afraid of heights, you're afraid of death, afraid of spiders, afraid of stairs, afraid of cats, afraid of dogs, or even hell, afraid of everything. People will always be fearful of everything in their everyday life, otherwise we wouldn't be human. In more so case, we wouldn't necessarily be alive. And that's the kind of thing that, well, one movie had tried to accomplish. And that is this little Disney film entitled The Good Dinosaur. So, for your viewing pleasures, here is my movie review and criticism of The Good Dinosaur and the Disney Studios' happy 100th year anniversary. And enjoy the review. Greetings, geeks and nerds. I'm Lady Universe, and I'm white and nerdy, and little dinosaur friends have always been something that fascinates the entire world ever since from day-to-day existence. In fact, this is the kind of purpose of the Disney film in question, The Good Dinosaur, and this is not The Good Dinosaur, this is a total dial. That is not The Good Dinosaur. This is The Good Dinosaur. And yes, I know I'm wearing a Minions or Despicable Me shirt, and despite talking about Disney, but it's animation, so it counts. Um, I don't really own any Disney property shirts, so I know I would have thrown on a Marvel shirt because Disney owns Marvel, but it still wouldn't get my point across. But anyways, always wanted to see Disney's The Good Dinosaur when it came out in 2015. Funny story about The Good Dinosaur. I almost had my hands upon seeing this film back when it came out on DVD in 2015, a little bit before I graduated from school. However, the disc that I got from my local library was so scratched up beyond repair, I only got into the first 5 minutes of the film and I couldn't see the rest of it. When I went and told my teacher, who donates her time down there, I don't know if she still does or not, she told me that unfortunately it would just be the Blu-ray disc and no longer the DVD. So that actually happened. But I never forgotten about the film. I always have forgotten to get my hands on it until finally I did. And let me tell you, Disney's The Good Dinosaur is a really fun, funny, and epically adventurous film, only slightly so because I'm still a critic for YouTube, but I will say that this is one of the most impressive, visually wise, that is ever come out of Disney, and this is coming from a guy that really enjoyed Disney, and Disney had been animation gods ever since, you know, they first began the business. But anyways, let's talk a little about The Good Dinosaur. So right off the bat, the Disney film actually opened up with the asteroid that was supposed to destroy Earth, completely missing it by a 100-mile wide meter, and it was just funny and hilarious to watch. This is where we cut to a family of dinosaurs, and they are expecting a family, and especially they do give birth to a family of Libby, Buck, and Arlo, the main character. The entire film becomes the entire epicenter of the film is this family of Apatosauruses that do live on Earth after the asteroid has completely missed and not wiped out all life on the Earth, as a matter of fact. Which I do actually really enjoy that we get to see, the Apatosauruses, and then it becomes relevant to me what Disney was trying to do, and that was to copy off of The Land Before Time. I know this is Journey to Big Water, but it's basically they're trying to copy off of The Land Before Time, where is that Arlo is our version of Littlefoot. In fact, even more so the fact that, when Littlefoot was born, he was considered a runt, and the same happens here when Arlo is born. Arlo is inside of the really humongous dinosaur egg, but it turns out he's actually the runt of the family, and he doesn't actually grow that big in this film. The similarities are pretty cool, especially since they're right there that, that Disney was inspired by a Don Bluth film that came out in the 90s, which I actually thought was pretty awesome. Now, this is not a gripe against the film, but the film kind of has a little bit of a hard time getting to know what the actual story behind the entire film is, at least for the first part of it. Eventually, Arlo runs across a little boy who we end up naming Spot, who ends up becoming one of the also main characters behind this film and the entire driving point. But in Arlo suddenly become the main focus of the entire film, which I will get to in a bit. And the really big focus behind it too is something that honestly happens to the both of them that becomes the even bigger, point of retrospect. Spot hardly says a word throughout most of this movie except for howling, and also he did a Keanu Reeves whoa moment. But mostly, Spot is quiet throughout the most of the movie. He does growl, he does occasionally bark at things, and then it becomes relevant that the comedy aspect of this is having a human being the animal and the animal being the human. This was done in a lot of other comedies. Probably the one that's off the top of my head is Family Guy, who actually have done this, where dogs become the dominant species. But then, they have humans as pests, which would, pretty funny. I actually did like that decision in this film. It kind of made it a little bit funny, but it also made it a little bit more heartwarming, and especially since how they are farming is much relevant to early Americans who had to use, the farm life to actually achieve, surviving in the world where we have the crop done before winter and or will we starve, and that's kind of a cool thing for me because I actually do like a TV program that a lot of you probably have heard of, Little House on the Prairie, which I really, really do like still to this day. It was a series I grew up on, so that moment that didn't bother me that much. But it becomes very, very apparent of what was going on in this film, especially after they killed uh, Arwo's father, Henry, the same way as Mufasa died, sort of. Um, Instead of a wall of raging wildebeest, it is a wall of raging water, and this becomes apparent for Buck to try and overcome his fear, which I actually kind of hate the film for. I don't think that um, Arlo should have lost his father in order for him to really conquer his fear. I think that is one of the worst things that this film has thrown at kids. If like in order for a main character to thrive, he had to lose his father figure. I mean, Simba lost his father because Mufasa. I mean, not Mufasa, because Scar wanted to reign supreme. That was why the entire purpose of Mufasa dying was the whole point. That Scar wanted to become king, so in order to do that, he takes out the next in line, and then he gets rid of Simba at the same time. But for Iroh, standards, it doesn't make any sense to me why they would kill his father so quickly. If I had to guess, it would be because you want to give the character motivation in conquering his goals, which I get and like, but it still confuses me still right now. Then the film throws that out of the gate or that out of the way when it becomes the entire focus of Arlo trying to find his way home, and in doing so, he has to figure out how to conquer his fears. Of course, he ends up doing so with the help of a little, cave boy, but aside from that, I mean, he does learn his lesson, eventually and apparently. I'm not trying to say this is a bad film because it really isn't, and I can never say that Disney ever really made a bad film off the top of my head. But it's like there are some critiquing areas that I do have to note, and especially I think it was pretty much something that should not have been in the film. Was when Arlo blames Spot for the death of his father. I think that the film should have not had that in there. I think that that was a moment that they just should have not went with. I mean, Ice Age had the similar story with the little boy that they adopted and saying that, man was evil even though this was a baby, and they brought him back home to his parents, which was the entire driving point behind Ice Age, which I really, didn't like in Ice Age even till now. But with the Good Dinosaur, there is no real purpose in Spot being the enemy. He blaming Spot, even though his father wanted him to kill Spot to begin with for stealing their food. And this becomes a great kind of term for man's last struggle for survival. The cavemen had to go through this, and people throughout history had to go through this. What would you do in the last leg of survival? But I really do feel that the film should have not established that at all. Like maybe just have, you know, Arlo not like Spot at first because he's different. That would have been a lot more unique than just having them be, not friends at first just because they're different. But I do really like that the film kind of ignored that in a sense once Spot started to take care of Arlo and then they really start their journey home. I really thought that that was, a stupendous start for me. The one thing that I just don't get is some of the amazing voice talents in here. Um, I mean, they have Anna Paquin, they have Sam Elliott, they have Steve Zahn. It's like these are some big, high quality names in a Disney film, and I knew Sam Elliott right when you hear that really good. You know it's good? Me, Sam Elliott. That's what's good. Once you just hear that voice, you're like, okay, alright, and I'm not gonna tell you what character or what dinosaur that he voices because it's pretty good. You also have the legendary John Ratzenberger in here as well. I think he is a really paranoid dinosaur. If memory serves me right, I don't know what type of dinosaur it was, but he was. I think he was the really paranoid dinosaur. I think his name was Bubba. I think I'm not really certain. Tell you the truth, but this film technically doesn't have a villain until later on in the film. Like in Robin Hood, they have Prince John. In the Jungle Book, they have Shere Khan. And in Big Hero 6, they had the Masked Man. There is nothing that is really the villain here except for just the obstacles that Arlo and Spot had to go through. But I think someone at Disney decided, we need a villain, and they decided it would be Thunderclap. It's not a pterodactyl, I think it's a pteranodon that ended up becoming the main villain of this, and I thought that that wasn't really necessary either, but the film still holds up pretty damn good in my opinion. Yes, I do understand that this is a Disney film. Yes, I understand the entire purpose of it is to entertain children and not adults, but still it's wonderful to see nonetheless. Disney had made a pretty damn good and impressive film that even for a child standards can still get across to adults of just how powerful that the message is. There are several aching moments where the film starts to go off on a tangent or starts to become kind of irrelevant of itself, but it still feels really good even to see for Disney. The Good Dinosaur is one of Disney's most impressive films, but I have seen much more better. But still, The Good Dinosaur for me gets an alright rating overall. That it's a pretty good movie with a pretty impressive story. I am hesitant on calling it the best Disney film that I've ever seen, but it is up there with one of the superb Disney films that I've seen. Disney knows how to make a good film. Disney knows how to get people's attention, and I think The Good Dinosaur does that overall by being a really great story with an amazing kind of writing going for it, all truthfully. All things considering, it is really just a movie about two friends that are trying to conquer the world, and I really think that The Good Dinosaur gets that point across very tremendously. Is that it's about a dinosaur and a human basically teaming up to take on the world of danger around it and for their journey to find a way back home. It is so much Don Bluth to Land Before Time, kind of. But for the most part, the Good Dinosaur still for me gets an alright rating. And in case you think that I'm gonna give it a Bulbasaur, no. It is not worthy enough to get a Bulbasaur, in my opinion. However, I do feel that it is right to give it a pretty damn good rating overall, and despite my snarky criticisms and despite the story that it does get, and also how it kind of loses itself from time to time, I will give it a magic rating because while, it kind of goes off on tangents, it kind of loses focus of what it is, there's still a little bit of that Disney magic that we can all hold inside of our hearts. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that is my movie review of The Good Dinosaur by Disney and Pixar Animation. I hope that you guys enjoyed. And happy 100th anniversary or celebration to Disney. I hope you guys for more, magical films to come out. And definitely, there is just shouting this out. There is a really good short on here. It's called Sanjay's Super Team, and it is really damn cool. You guys should check that out. Yeah, I don't know if it's on YouTube, but you guys should check it out. It's like a 5 minute long cartoon. It's really damn good, anyways. So, thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter with a link in the description down below. And let me know what you thought about The Good Dinosaur and if you agree with my criticism with that. It's pretty good overall for me when it skips around from time to time. It kind of got boring. There were a lot of things unnecessary, like Arlo's dad dying and the fact that they want it to be about someone conquering their fear. And which that really should have been the entire focus of the film, and then they just gave him a really ridiculous enemy. I would have been more surprised if it was like a T Rex that they ended up fighting in the film. So really surprising that they used a Pteranodon instead of. I think that's what it is, instead of going with a T Rex, because I think that somebody probably made that decision of no. Don Bluth did that. We don't want to get sued by Universal and Don Bluth here. But really, aside from the fact, it is still a good movie, just not what I was really hoping. I think I went in with my expectations a little too high. I was expecting it to be a really, decent film halfway. Uh, Sort of what I was expecting it to surprise me, like Frozen and Frozen 2 and also Moana, but it didn't. So I think I went in with expectations a little too high. So that's just me. But I still give it a magic rating. I don't know if it will be on my top 10 favorite films list. I might have to rewatch it again, like in my free time, just to see if that's true. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I've been Lead Universe. I've been waiting nerdy and keep geeking out, my friends. And until next time, I'll see you guys on the next Lead Universe whatever review. So, till next time, guys. And happy anniversary, Disney.